Hello, welcome to the weekly live stream where you get to watch me play with the engine and write some bugs and stuff. Hopefully fix a few in the process. Before we get started, let me thank the patrons. You guys definitely help keep me going. Definitely help keep the server costs running. So tonight we'll be going over the release that I cut yesterday. If you guys don't know anything about that, you can check it out in the upper left corner up here. That's where the link is. Essentially, if you go to, let me go ahead and break out my little thing so I can keep track of what's going on. Minimize this. So if you go to this page, if I refresh it, I think it'll make me log in. Okay, let's look at it in incognito mode. How about new private window? Okay, so if you were to go there, and you'd see you got to put the password in. So this is the URL, mythruna.com/that stuff. You type that in. You go here. You type DRAGON, dragon. Hit enter. And then you get this, and you can join the Discord here, which there's some cool people over there that post screenshots and talk about gaming and things in general. You can read the release notes, and here you can download the different versions. We have one for Windows, one for Linux, and then there's a sort of platform independent one that should work on, so anything that supports Java 1.8 and has OpenGL. And you can also download the standalone server. And if you're really curious, you could download old versions. But this is the key. If you get on the Discord, then you can also get help with stuff and so on. But so check it out. The release I cut a release yesterday, and that's sort of what we'll be going over today. The release notes are basically custom clothing, which you've seen me develop over the last few live streams. So let's minimize this. And so yeah, I've been working on putting my to-do list together for the next release, which will be for Halloween. I plan to throw a Halloween party, in-game Halloween party on my server. I'll get my server back up and running. By the way, if you're online, say hi. It shows no views at the moment. So, all right. So anyway, at the end of so let's Halloween party, end of October, my game server. So this will be an opportunity for people to make some costumes and show their costumes off. It should be fun. So that's the plan. And I'll put one more release out before then with some baby bugs fixes and tweaks and things to make that a little bit more fun. Maybe add some spooky content if there's time. I'm going to try to get the male avatar model working so that males and females, you could be boys and girls, not just girls. Anyway, so that's that. I hope people are on and that I'm actually streaming. It says I'm streaming. Alright. So one of our users who goes by Oakstorm in the Discord found out that Seed 321 is kind of cool, so that's the one I'll be using for the live stream tonight. Thanks, Oak. And what I'll do first is kind of go over a little tutorial on how clothing editing works. Hopefully my sound is working, right? Yep, looks like it's working. Cool. Alright, so jump into the game. Alright. It's loading. There we go. Okay, so the cool thing is here we start out on the edge of what looks like a dormant volcano, which I think is kind of cool. That's what Oak mentioned. And we can see that there's probably a farm over here. Looks like a town. We can just kind of see sort of off in the distance here. Let's see, what time of day is it? It's 11 o'clock, so got to keep track of the time because it'll get dark at some point. So if we look at the map, whoops. Yeah, so we've got, a cool town up here, another town. There's a town by the water, which is, we can't actually see that from here. Where's that? Let's jump out of the tower and go walking around a little bit. So we'll run around up on the rim of this volcano. It's actually not meant to be a volcano. It's just, oh, look at that. That is cool. Little cave in the side of the volcano. See this, you get distracted when you're traveling around. Little cave generated in the side of the cone of this volcano. That's kind of cool. Anyway, oh, so it leads back out. Up. Okay, cool. All right, so let's spin over here for a second. So off in the distance over here somewhere, oh, over there. Come on, come on, come on. Using the super fast fly. Yeah, so there's a city over there by the water, which is pretty cool. Each of these little towns, each of those big towns has airports in them, so eventually we'll have some air travel between them, which will be kind of cool. Anyway, this seems like a reasonable place to perch. So that's this town right here. If there's interest, if anybody logs on and there's interest, I could try walking over to these places and you can see sort of the scale of how long it takes. There's another farm, another farm. All right, so what I added this time is the custom clothing. And when you first load up your stuff, you'll have some default things that you can play with. And where this becomes useful is you can say, like, I know I want to make some pants, or I want to make a shirt, but I don't want to have to like click all the things to make a shirt. So you can load the shirt and you can copy that. And so you can start from a particular thing and say, well, I want to make a leather shirt. So you can go and you can figure out which. So this is the linen natural. If you, by the way, if over any swatch you hit the C key, C is in cat, it will select that particular swatch. Like, so here it's selected the little triangle. If I do here, it will select that that's a square with a hard edge, and so on. So if you find a thing you like, you can also look at the closer version. You can come in here and you find and replace. So we want to replace the natural linen with, let's make like a leather something. Natural leather, sure. And so we've replaced it. And so it's like a leather vest of some kind, or a leather shirt. And maybe we want to then go and add some stuff to it, like maybe a fur rim here. So we can come up here and we can select, let's, I don't know if light brown's what I want, but we'll see. That's what it looks like. And so maybe we want to give it a little fur rim down here at the bottom. And so what I did was I selected that it should have hard edges on the top and the bottom. You can see how it added. So if I didn't have that, it would just lay flat and there would be no, we can actually zoom in and I'll show you. So you can see how this has an edge on it and these do not. So if we give them an edge and plop them down, so then we can, give this vest shirt, leather shirt thing kind of a fur bottom. So similarly, once you have a particular first swatch selected, you can select different shapes. So here we've got like the angle, and you can select different variations of that. So here's an angle that's just the bottom. You have sort of the bottom right, which is this guy here, which would be this. So if we wanted to give her a fur, neckline. So we have this one over here. Then we can come in here back to the square, give it some top, and we can put in these like this. Similarly, we can put a little fur cuff here. And once it crosses over to the shoulder, it's on the back, and so these will be backwards. So we'll flip back over to the back in a second. The other thing is maybe we don't want these so thick. We can come back in and do edge instead. So we can have the edge, we could do the left edge, and so we would just have this part, right? Or the right edge, and we would just have this part. And so we could make that, and then there would be, there's like the small angles, which top left, and so we could fill in that. Top right, we could fill in that. Oops. So Control Z is undo. You can also hit the undo button down here. That works. So with this, you can create quite a bit of variation in your custom clothing. And so I thought it'd be cool if we all, I probably want to give these guys solid bottoms. Yeah. So that'd be cool if we could all get in and make some custom clothing and have like a little in-game Halloween party. Maybe not exactly on October 31st, but that Friday. I don't know exactly what the day. I haven't looked at the calendar is. But we can maybe, if there's enough interest, we can show off our costumes that we make. 'Cause certainly by then we should be able to make some interesting things. Yeah, so this will be kind of interesting here. So bottom left. Oops. Just gotta turn that guy off. So as I was talking about before, like right click, you can actually bring up the help and it kind of shows that stuff. Right click will place a block, left click will remove it, just like in regular blocks. So we've got this. Let's see what I want to do. I want to, so see, these are backwards now. I need, this will go on this side. And if I use the C key and grab that one, then that'll go on that side. And I can use the little angle. Small angle, top left, to go here, and top right to go here. Okay, so that's all I'm really going to do for this. I would have liked to give her some sleeves and stuff, but this will work. So we'll call this leather shirt. And yeah, we'll leave that. So, all right, save clothing. So that's how you make clothing. And this help text, that's a bug. This is completely wrong. So you can ignore that. How the current way to use, eventually there'll be crafting, and these are just the designs that you'll use to craft clothing for your characters. But for now, there's a temporary way in the character screen, so this is sort of her default. As soon as we start adding clothes to her, she's going to be naked. So to appease the algorithm, I'm going to turn backwards here because we're going to put some underwear on her first. So we'll give her some underwear top, underwear bottom. So now she's at least decent for the YouTube censors. And so we can give her some clothing, like if we want to give her that that leather shirt we just created, she can wear that. And now she's got her leather shirt. The game preloads some things, so you've got the pants with the belt, which standard sort of Mythruna girl pants with the belt, and then the cuffed boots, which is also standard. And so for fun, I put in that metal bracer that she normally wears by default, and the silver necklace. So you can give her that stuff. And when we run around in the game now, You can see that that's the, well, maybe you can't in the dark. You can see that that's what she's wearing. So pretty cool. And so you can give her all kinds of crazy clothing, you know, fur underwear, fur boots, whatever. So that's that. Now there's a couple bugs already in this, in that if I go back to the dark, you can see that the specular is all kinds of crazy, and it would look really, really crazy. I don't know who remembers, but back some time ago, the regular blocks specular was messed up too, and so even in pitch black, you'd still get, you know, this shininess. Let me show you. I'll make a here. Let's first raise the lighting so we can get really a dark room back here. Hopefully not cut through the other side. So this is really dark back here, and if I go back to third person, we can see that she's still quite sparkly, even though there's no lighting. And the specular turns out to be, to just be too bright in general. It's like always shiny for full sun. If we had, you know, if I go back to clothing and I copy, let's make it more obvious. So we're going to copy the basic tunic, and then I'm going to replace everything in there with metal. So we used brushed metal. I think it's the brightest of all of them. Yeah, so that's super bright. And metal shirt. Metal shirt. Oops. So we'll save that, and we'll let her wear that. So we'll take off the leather shirt, and we'll put on the metal shirt. Yeah, so she's dark in here because we're underground, or we're basically underground. And you see, like, even though it's pitch black in here and nothing else would have light, she's got you know, shiny armor. And if we had like a yellow light or red light, it would still be, in fact, let's put a red light in here. Magic red, select it, yeah, mini one, that's fine. Okay, so let's make a little room in here. Now I think when we're in here, if we go back to the, yeah, so see, we can see the color of the stuff. And so it's like a white, she's lit red, but the shininess is white, and that's not right either. It's supposed to be based on the local lighting. Yeah, it's funny, she's mid-step there. Okay, there we go. Yeah, it basically takes a freeze frame of whatever pose she was in. We grab it. So anyway, specular is a bug that I'll have to fix. It's also overly shiny, which is why I've tamped down the shininess on most of these things, because the leather should also be a little shiny, but I had to tamp it way down. The other bug is, as I mentioned before, this help text is completely wrong. So that's probably the first thing I'll fix, because it's really easy. If any of you are actually online, say hi, ask questions, whatever. This thing says I currently have no viewers, so if you are on, just let me know. All right, so that's what we'll play with. We'll go ahead and respawn, so we're back at the. So we're back at our little base here. See, for miles and miles and miles. All right, so exit. Yeah. One view, no concurrent viewers. Smallest live stream yet. All right. So what we want to do is go in here. Hi, Rayblon. Actually, you haven't been on in a while, have you? Glad somebody's here. So let's go to clothing. It would be the other thing is the clothing selection is not sorted, and I'm not sure why that is. That may be more than I want to try to fix here. The help text is really easy because this is just was cut and pasted with some search and replace. Selecting existing clothing design. Click edit, or I don't know how much space I have, or copy to edit that clothing, or a copy of that clothing. To use the clothing in the world, open the character menu and select an item of clothing and click wear. And to remove clothing, select it in the lower list and click remove. So I'll add one more note. Clothing, let's give it a separate line. Clothing is worn in the order it is. Clothing is layered in the order that it is worn. Alright, so just double check that that works. And then we'll look at the next bug, which might actually be the specular. All right. Should load pretty quick here. Okay, a little weirdness there. Okay, so we're standing up on top of our spawn tower. Oh, she's still wearing the shiny metal. That'll be useful in a minute. All right, so go to clothing. Select new clothing to create new clothing. Select an existing clothing design and click edit or copy to edit that clothing. Yep, okay. To use a clothing in the world. To use a clothing to use clothing, probably just open the character menu, capital C character. So let me edit these while I go. So to use clothing in the world, open the G character menu and select the item of clothing to wear. To remove clothing, select it in the lower list and click remove. Clothing is layered in the order that it's worn. Okay. That seems reasonable, so we go over here. Because there is no help text over here, which I could add help text, but this screen is going to eventually get really busy because this is a bunch of things that are going to happen on this screen. But so yeah, clothing selector, wearing, I think maybe I want to say use clothing in the world, open the character menu and select an item of clothing from the clothing selector. Select an item of clothing from the clothing selector list and click wear. Click select it in the lower wearing list. Oops. Click remove. Okay, so that seems reasonable. Clothing is layered or so. The order it is worn. So what I mean by that is if we remove her pants, she's wearing the belts, and if we add the pants back, they'll be put on over her boots. So if we wear the pants now she's got her boots under her pants. So essentially the order it appears in this list is the order that she's wearing them. She looks more modern now with the boots inside. That's kind of funny. Like she's wearing blue jeans and a metal shirt. So anyway, that's clothing editor, and we fixed that first bug. And so let's look at the list. And now I have 2 concurrent viewers. Welcome whoever just joined. So these are both not sorted, and I can sort them now. I think this blueprints is actually harder. But it's the specular that's really bugging me. So what that is in the shader. Let's nerd out for a second. So in the fragment shader, we pull together a bunch of different parameters for both local light and sunlight, and calculate specular based on. We're supposed to calculate specular based on all that. We calculate regular lighting based on either one, and then we add them together, and blah blah blah. There's math, yay math. But I think we're only calculating specular and shininess for the sunlight, and that was also true for the blocks. And so I'm going to load up the block. I just don't like when my editor does that. Okay, so we'll start here. I'm going to load up the shader for the blocks library. Did I fix that in the core one, or do I have an overridden one for Mythruna? I don't remember. So that's the frag shader for lighting, and I think they were similar at one point. Okay, so all right. So these essentially should be the same, but let me see. So local lighting does some more advanced stuff with shininess. That's fine. But it's funny, I don't compute local lighting, so that is something that's different. So let's grab the local light and put that here. All of these things are still available. Let me make sure that, yep. In this case, we want to use our calculated shininess value. Clothing is built up of multiple textures, and there is a shininess texture that controls, or the specular texture, which controls the color of whatever reflected light from the object, but also the alpha channel controls the shininess. And the shininess is essentially a higher shininess value. If you were looking at a dull ball, that's not what I want. So if you had, come on. So if you had, a sphere, and it was, just a bit shiny, kind of matte, you'd have this really large specular highlight. And if it's super shiny, like glossy plastic, you get this really hard specular highlight, and you may actually get another one down here, depending on where the light source is coming from. At any rate, so the shininess controls basically how small those little things are, and that's now built into the textures so that some things can have different, like leather could have a dull reflection, and metal armor can have really shiny reflection, and so on. So we calculate that based on the texture. That's what that is. If maybe you guys don't care, shaders are probably the most nerdy of the coding one does as a game developer. It's the lowest level. Okay, so where do we use that local light? Okay, color ramp is broken, so we don't use it there. Okay, so let's just double check that the sunlight contribution is calculated in a similar way. I think that should be exactly the same. So here's like a trick I use, right? You can see, okay, so we are doing something different. Here, yeah, we don't, in the blocks we do not use, I think I do ambient as a second pass now. Or, wait, what are we doing over here? Ambient sum plus diffuse color times ambient. No, see, that's wrong. It should just be ambient. Okay, so that should be like that. Yeah, and I'll move the plus just so that so you can see I'm moving back and forth between each one, and so yeah. Model light. These do not have model light. Only local light. And so the block world, each vertex of a block has a lighting value associated with it that facilitates smooth lighting and so on. But we have M local lighting, and that's so it's the same for the whole model, because we don't calculate vertex lighting for the complicated models like the Mythruna girl model or the gay fin or anything like that. They just have one sort of value for the whole model. So we do it a little differently. So we don't have that. But what do I use that for? The alpha is sunlight. So this is the sunlight. Okay, so this is where the reason we don't have local lighting involved is because we're not taking it into account when we calculate specular. The sunlight X so these are lighting values that say how much specular and how much diffuse lighting to use, but that's what we need here. Is we need the alpha of that, so that if we're basically we're underground and we've got no sunlight, we won't do any specular contribution. The then further down, yeah, see, has local lighting. Okay, that's where we should have been. Alright, so I just need to broken when local lighting is not set. This really needs to be factored into this if we have local lighting set, because the model might not have local lighting set. So basically we kill all the specular if that's true. So if it has local lighting, that's where we good lord, this is more complicated than I thought. So So that part's right. But we should see, that's multiplying the whole thing by so it's fun to get into a live stream and get some levels deep before you realize that something may require a lot more thought than you. So the local contribution, which I don't think we're calculating. Oh, we do calculate. And here we are multiplying by local contribution for specular. But we did something different. Like, what is this garbage? Why? Where did we do that here? What I'm trying to figure out is where in the block calculations we attenuate the diffuse and ambient colors by, or diffuse color for sure, by how much sunlight we have, like the local light. Model light A is how much sun we have right now, and whatever, it's like if we're in a cave, that's 0. And I can't figure out how that ever gets tamped down. So here we have sun contribution, that's fine. We aren't using it anywhere that's important. So how does this work at all? Maybe it's tamped down earlier. Let's see. So we get model light, and that's the first place that's used. Okay. So first of all, I'm making a lot of assumptions that we aren't actually overriding this behavior. It could be that I fixed it. Nope. That could be I fixed it just for Mythruna and left it broken in. But nope. Okay, so I don't know how this works at all. Which makes it trickier to decide if this is working right. But let's just check our sun contribution and local contribution. Sun contribution is going to be no more than 1. It'll be the length of our diffuse. I bet that the sun contribution is baked into ambient sum and diffuse sum. Yep, that's what it is. I bet if we loaded up, and not here, I bet if we loaded up the vertex shader, we can probably find, yeah, model light, sunlight. So this is why. Sunlight, when we calculate the lighting values that are passed on, we use so basically it's already baked into these lighting values we get. And these don't use those lighting values, it uses the local light. So that's why. We can do similar here. Yeah, because we don't, it wouldn't be called that though. It would be, because there's a reason I had to do that. Yeah, so this is the way the block stuff does it, but I think it's wrong. The issue is that it clears the material colors when there's no sun. It will continue to happen for as long as we lump material color into lighting. Okay. So the blocks don't have their own color, although I added that later. Yeah, so I think maybe I passed them through in another way. Anyway, we're not fixing that today. We're only fixing specular, and I know how to do that now. So this is the actual right value, and oops, no, this is. So we just make sure we're doing similar over here. I just want to check. Yes, yes, yes. Length of AmiSum times model light A. Yep. Okay, it's all the same. I've just better organized it here. Okay, local contrib should be the same. Yep. 125 minus sun contrib, local contrib. Okay, we're good there. And then this is the other one, the magic, where the magic is done. Oh, not that one, this one. So let's just check this calculation against the one we have. Model light XYZ, yep. So we include the ambient color there. That's different. I don't know that that's right. So let's make these look similar. So everywhere that we say model light, we say M local lighting instead. And all that's good. I don't know why we do. That makes no sense. Oh, that is the ambient calculation. So where are we getting our ambient calculation at all? I think we ignore the ambient light in the block, or the ambient color in the block stuff. I think that's a bug over there. So we will leave this here, though it probably really should be this, just without that. But hola, just sat down to join. Hi, Ron. You're late to the party, but I'm glad you could make it. So are you, Ron, you're Oak Storm on the Discord? So we'll leave that. We will leave that. And this is different. So, yep, okay. So, yeah, the world I'm using is based your 321 world. I appreciate that heads up on that. So this should use local lighting instead. Yeah, so what this was doing, the old code was always making the specular white, basically. Not based on the local lighting color. So now we'll base it on the local lighting color. And so scene light versus local light. Scene light versus local light. Local light was calculated up there, which we've redone. And we don't need to do scene light now. I see what we did. So, yeah, yeah, it does, right? Yeah, it's not really a volcano, but it does look that way. It's based on how the. Okay, so let's make sure I didn't use this somewhere else because I'm going to get rid of it. Okay, so local light. We'll call this local light. And we'll replace all of our scene lights with local lights. Okay, so if we have glass specular, we do that. So I think we're good. Everything matches up now. Alright, let's see if I have fixed the problem or made it worse. Yeah, I went around from the spawn tower earlier and checked out the nearest towns, even the ones, there's ones that are just over the, just past the clip on where we do the far towns. And all of those towns had airports, which is going to be really good when, I implement the airships, which I'd like to do sooner rather than later. So that was cool. All right. So with luck, we should now get colored specular on Fade's armor that changes properly with the lighting of the scene. And maybe we'll work on sorting that item list. Okay, so let's see what Fade's doing. All right. Well, she's definitely colored based on the moonlight now, so that's good. Like, she doesn't have that icky white specular. So if we come in here, yeah, so see, her specular highlights should be changing. Yeah. Okay, so she's got like some shine on her. Yeah. All right, so let's go back outside. Oops. Yeah, I really need to work on the head clip. I think it's like kind of convenient. Okay, so yeah, so we have like almost no light right now, which is why up here we had a blue specular highlight because there's blue lighting here. So as we run around, we can see that her specular highlight is blue. And if we go back over there to where we made our little dark cave, which I have to remember where we put it. I think there's a bug here. Yeah, okay, so there is still a bug where, yes, so see now her shine should glint with the sun. Okay, well, she's actually not shiny. It's problematic. All right, so let's go back in here. So she's still got sunshine. We should, if we bring her up, why is she foggy? All right, so there's something wrong with my calculations. Yeah, she even looks a little bit hazy here too. Caught her mid-walk there. All right, so let's go back in here. She should be just lit by red now. Yeah, red highlights and the shininess. Thing is, we're only getting shininess from local lighting now, so something's broken. Yeah, so see, she's nice and shiny with the red highlight. That's good. If we took the light out, oops. Oh yeah, right. You have to take the light out by putting a block over it. So if we take the light out, yeah, she's got no shininess, which is exactly what it's supposed to be. So let's head back out. But for some reason, she's all hazy now, so I messed up the regular calculation. Yeah, I might have to pull this math apart a little bit more than I did. But yeah, there's great views from this caldera or whatever. Hey, look at the spawn tower. It looks kind of cool up there on the rim of the... but yeah, so she's all... Why'd she get all foggy? Which part of what we changed broke that? So Let me put this back the way it was, since that could be broken. But that means something else is broken. Uh-oh, Pepsi's all gone. Alright. Alright, let's go back in, see if she's still busted. Yeah, debugging shaders gets pretty deep at some point because you start trying to output weird colors to check values. And I thought it was going to be a quick fix, but seems like not. Oh, there's some kind of point of interest there. You can kind of get a preview. Yeah, so she's still hazy, so that was not what the problem was. So I can put that back. That was not the issue. So it's something down here that I changed. Let me bring back this code again and compare them. Because the other thing is that the model lighting, so I don't remember exactly what I changed here. Guess we don't do that. Maybe I could take that out. That means we don't do any ambient contribution. Maybe that's right, actually. Alright, so perhaps we were getting... But that's multiplying by diffuse. And... So much fun. Yeah. Debugging shaders is a lot like debugging some of the physics code. It requires full brain participation, and so I have trouble keeping up color commentary and actually giving it the brain cells required. So whether this works or not, I think maybe I'll field questions from the audience and just walk towards one of the towns, because I think it's kind of fun to do. I'm really curious what that point of interest is there. So you can kind of cheat, because sometimes you get the clues about the points of interest before you actually get there. Okay, so character. Yeah, she's still hazy, so that had nothing to do with it. Then I'm going to put that back the way it was, because that was not it. It has to do with this. Yeah, so I have to take all these apart, and one of the things you do is you set a particular... The frag color is what the colors is going to be drawn to the screen, and so you'll set just the red value to some special thing to see what's going on, so you can have markers. But in the meantime, let's go look at the map. And so town 2377 is the nearest one. Where's the direction? It's over here. And that's the one we could actually see from the spawn tower. Maybe that's the one that Oak sent me a picture. Oak Storm. So you can see it just over the thing there. So what we're going to do is walk there. Okay, so we'll start here. I'm going to run back a little bit to dawn, just before dawn, and so we can see sort of how long, if I run towards that, it will take to get there without doing the crow flying. In the meantime, feel free to ask questions, or for those of you who joined late, I'll say it again that towards the end of October, whatever live stream is near the end of, was nearest to Halloween there before Halloween, I'm going to get my server up and running again this month, and we'll have a Halloween party there. So I'll let you guys know when the server's up and running, and you can log in and make some custom clothing, and hopefully for that live stream we can get a bunch of people together and with weird clothing for Fade. I'm going to put one release out before then, hopefully with the male model active, so that we could have boys and girls at the party and not just all girls. And if I get really ambitious, maybe I'll make the dwarf model too, because maybe I'll make some of the other races, at least their basic models. Oh, that's so tempting to go check out the cave. Anyway, we're heading towards that city over there. We could stop by a farm on the way. But so the goal of the game, right, is that we might get distracted along the way and find lots of interesting things to do. There's just a minimal amount of interesting things at this point, but that you might set off to go to a town that's a little more than a kilometer away and get sidetracked. But let's see. So we started at 8 a.m. game time. It's actually kind of fun to pick a town to walk to that will take a day's travel to get to, because then it starts to get really dark, and as you get closer, sometimes if you come up over a bridge you can see the lights of the town off into the distance, and you kind of get a feel for what the game might be like when the roads are actually dangerous and more dangerous at night, and you're really hoping to get to that town before nightfall and you don't quite make it, but you're struggling to get there, and you come up and you can see the lights in the distance and you think we might make it, and I don't know. The imagination runs wild. And a reminder that in the upper left screen of the screen is a link to download this version of the game, which was released yesterday. Has the clothing editor, has the block editor, caves, and you can generate a dungeon, any number of dungeons actually. So it's weird that these pine trees are growing. So this must be relatively cool temperature area with dry, low moisture is what I'm guessing. Which is why the pine trees select. Because if it was really hot here, we wouldn't see any pine trees at all. So this would be like near, like a cold steppe. S-T-E-P-P-E steppe. Right, how are we doing on the... Okay, we're heading straight there. I think it's just on the other side of that ridge that we can see up there. Another thing I noticed when I'm exploring, and Ron Morgan brought this up too, it's hard to get through the trees, and part of that is because there are pine trees that can generate without branches near the ground, but they apparently are not being selected often enough. So if the forests get really like here, we can run under these, what I call them umbrella trees, but they're supposed to be oak. But once you get like a bunch of pine trees, they all seem to go straight to the ground. And there is a version of the pine tree that has the taller branches, and I think that I need to change the randomness so that those will appear more, especially in dense forest. Because when it gets dense, I would rather have high canopy, and really that's more realistic, the way a forest would generate for real. The way a forest would grow for real is that you would be able to walk around, because the parts of the branches that need to see the sun can't grow near the ground because there's other trees around. So when the trees get really dense, you wouldn't have that ground covering. So you'd get to actually just walk through a really dark forest, which is sort of where we want to be. That's where all the fun will happen. Come across some giant mushrooms. Some weird creatures eating those giant mushrooms. Who knows, right? Alright, where are we? Oh, we're heading, it's just, yeah, probably just over this. The other thing is, like, this is the fully zoomed out map. It really looks more like that, right? But we should make it there in time for a late lunch in game time. So it looks like it's 1 o'clock game time. You don't know what I'm talking about. Up here, it's telling us the time of day. So it's 1:12. Birds are chirping. It's a nice day. Yep, there's the town. This town is neat because you can still look back and see the spawn tower. So we've got some... We're going to get there. Just a few minutes after the live stream, which should have normally ended. I'm glad you guys finally made it to the live stream. It was a little lonely there at first, but I'm better late than never. Hopefully you all had a good productive week on whatever projects you're working on. I had meant to get this release out Monday, and then it just kept getting delayed and delayed, so I apologize for anybody who was waiting for that. But fortunately we got it out, and now I'll be pushing for the Halloween release, which should release the week before Halloween. And I'll try to get more character types so we can have better costumes. So somewhere in this town is a airport. And that's usually where I like to end, because if we were traveling around, that's where we would come into the town probably. Yep, there's Gallows. This town has a... There it is. I think the big towns heavily favor having a airport. So here would be the little office. And then you could head up here to where... This is one of the small airports. So this would be where an airship could dock. And you could go and you could travel on to wherever. And if we look back up there, that little dot on that mountain, that is the spawn tower. So if we look back at here, that is this little dot here. That's the spawn tower up there. So kind of cool. All right, guys, thanks for joining. Sorry we only partially we fixed the specular bug and broke something else, but we fixed that help text at least, and I'll get the thing sorted. If any of you download the game and find some showstopper bugs, I'll probably put out another release over the weekend. But otherwise, thanks for joining. Again, I hope you have a really productive week this week on whatever projects you're working on, and hopefully then Karma will come back and I will also have a productive week. Let's see. Definitely like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps the YouTube algorithm, etc. And I always wait till the end of the video to say these things, but thank you, and thanks again to my patrons. And I will catch you guys next time. Thanks, everybody.